In this video, we're going to take a look at how to use data channel operators in conjunction with Pyrocluster and Afterburn. We can use data channels from thinking particles to control things like cloud color or cloud density, things like that. Let's go ahead and take a look. You can see out here in our scene we've got three different lights, a camera, and a cylinder with some particles being born inside of it, and a ground kind of plane there. First thing, let's take a look. This is actually our scene light, this main one right here. His name is Direct Pyro. Let's just call that Direct Main, actually. And this light here is called Direct-01 Color. This has a gradient ramp in its projector map slot that looks like this. We'll go ahead and set him from include to exclude. Make sure this guy's include and include. This way that those lights are not actually going to render anything. We'll go ahead and we're going to disable the Pyrocluster that we have in here right now. Now let's just see what that... Let's take a look at the alpha channel. So you can see that that gradient's only being cast into a certain area. If we take a look at this light, we can see that it's set to a rectangle and it's only projecting kind of a certain area. And what we want to have happen is we want this color pattern to be baked into these particles so that they actually have a cloud color using that color. It's a little bit colorful for that, but this is just a good example. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is actually we don't want this light to render in the scene or include anything. So we're going to set him to include and leave his list as empty. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next light. This is the light we're going to use to control the density channel. We're going to set him to exclude with nothing so that we can actually see what his pattern looks like. That's a little bit too big, so let's come in here and modify that. And let's increase the difference there so that we get a stronger pattern. Okay, so something like that should be alright. And so that's the density light, this guy right here. Go ahead and set him back to include empty list so that he doesn't really render anything. And this guy, the main, we're going to definitely want to be illuminating the scene. And let's go ahead and take a look. First, let's take a look in our TP system. We've got a born volume, just creating a bunch of particles inside this cylinder node here. What we want to do is go ahead and create another dynamic set called, let's call it DC color for data channel color. First thing we're going to do, come up to the all group. We're going to add a data channel. We're going to add a color. We're going to add that. Actually, you know what? Let's remove that and give it a name. Just call it color like that. And then let's also add a float, and we'll name him density. Add that. So channel 0 is color, 1 is density. Let's come back to this new dynamic set. What we want to do is have the all particles affected. We want to use a light, so we'll use the light condition. The position, we can just drop onto the particle. It knows that it wants to look at the particle position for that. And we're going to go ahead and pick, let's go ahead and pick the colors light first, which is this top one. Direct-01 color. And what we're going to do is we're going to output that color value into a standard operator. We're going to use the data channel. The data channel is going to affect that particle and be applied to him. And we're going to go ahead, let's expose the input, the color input. You can see that data channel is set to data channel 0, so it's going to write a value into this data channel. And let's go ahead and take that color from the light that reaches the particle and pipe that into that color. Okay, so next step is we need to come into our environment tab, activate Pyrocluster. We're going to go ahead and save, and let's see, the light Pyrocluster is going to use is the direct main, which is good. The thinking groups that we're using, the all group. And what we want to do is come into the color section and say we want to control the Pyrocluster color with a thinking data channel effect. And we're going to go ahead and select this first key at the beginning of his age and say that is color, and at the end that other key should also be controlled by the data channel color. And this just pulls the data channels, the applicable data channels from the actual groups in TP. So Okay, with no variance, that's fine. And now let's go ahead, and it's very important to know that even though this light is set to include nothing, TP is actually going to go ahead and recognize it and use it to apply that value to those data channels. So we'll go ahead and save, render, and what we'll see is a big rainbow colored cloud now. So you can see each of those particles is using the value from that light. Now let's actually do something interesting. We're going to have them move. Actually, that's our camera. So what we're going to have them do is move in the x direction. Let's go ahead and set that velocity. Have them move down x with some variation at a pretty high speed. And let's see. Okay, maybe not that fast. Okay, and we want, now what we want to do is we want to make sure that this light to the data channel, we want to make sure that that color is only updated once during his life. So we're going to use a condition, we'll use particle age, and we're going to say, okay, only set this data channel when I am born. And that will control when that data channel turns on and gets set, looks up that light value, applies that color into that data channel. So here we are at frame 5, and let's make sure that we're far enough away here. What we should see is all the colors spread out. Let's go ahead and take a look. This was the first frame, so we had red way down here and fading all the way through here. These particles are going to keep their color. That color only gets set when they're born, and then so as they move afterward, they're just going to go ahead and use that color, whichever it had been set at their birth. And actually, you know, I think we're spreading out a little too far. Let's do this. Okay. So now, based on this location here, so there's the color light up there. These particles are going to be outside of that color. Our main light's going to go ahead and illuminate them anyway, but that main color light is still casting that gradient across here. But these particles have already picked up that color, and now they're moving off. So let's just go ahead and render. Okay, so we can see that they have kept their color, and obviously it has only been set during birth. And they just go ahead and continue and move and keep that color. Now there's some interesting other things you can do with the colored data channels. You could actually have these particles mix color based on how close they are to each other, so that the closer they approach each other, it takes a portion of the nearby particle's color and adds it to its own. That kind of blending, averaging you can do. Anything with data channels, it's just another data type that we can manipulate inside TP, modify, and use here either in Pyrocluster or Afterburn, etc. Let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to duplicate this DC color dynamic set, and instead we're going to call this DC density. We're actually going to come back in here and disable that velocity so they do not move. And we're going to go ahead and have we're going to change the data channel. We want to now affect data channel 1, which is the density float. So we're going to affect particle density, and we don't want to use the color light anymore for that. We want to use the density light, which is this guy right here.